What would you do if your own dad straight up played you, stole your inheritance, then tried to gaslight you like you were crazy? Like, imagine finding out the money your grandma left you was quietly funding your golden child sibling's dream life. And when you finally call him out, he says you're overreacting. Nah, not this time. Because what he didn't realize was the quiet daughter he underestimated, she came with receipts. And when I exposed everything at his fancy country club birthday party, let's just say the champagne stopped popping real quick. This isn't just family drama. This is betrayal, power, and the moment a daughter stops shrinking. So if you've ever been the disappointment, if you've ever been overlooked, hit that like button. Subscribe, because these stories hit different. Trust me, you're not ready for what happened next. Let's get into it. Fire. My name is Ava. I'm 31 years old. And on the morning of my birthday last year, my father showed up at my apartment for the first time in almost 4 years, holding an envelope like it was junk mail. He didn't hug me, didn't say happy birthday. He just looked around at my tiny living room, the thrift store couch, the stack of lesson plans on the coffee table, and said, "Your grandmother wanted you to have this. Not that it matters now." Then he added something I swear I will hear in my head for the rest of my life. "She died thinking you wasted your potential." And he left. That was it. No cake, no card, just that sentence hanging in the air like smoke. Inside the envelope was a letter, and the first line changed everything. "If you're reading this, it means you made it through them. I always knew you would." Not him. Them. That one word cracked open 30 years of lies. Before I take you where this story really starts, do me one quick favor. If you believe quiet people deserve loud truths, hit like. If you've ever been the disappointment in your family, subscribe. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I read every single one. Now, let me rewind 5 years, to the day my grandmother died. The funeral smelled like white roses and old money. You know that scent. Sweet, expensive, artificial grief. My grandmother, Margaret Hale, was laid out in a casket that probably cost more than my annual salary. Polished wood, gold handles, soft lighting like some luxury hotel for the dead. My father stood at the center of the room, shaking hands like he was closing business deals instead of burying his mother. "Thank you for coming." She would have appreciated it. She was proud of this family. He wore a navy suit and a watch that flashed every time he moved his wrist under the chandelier. I stood by the wall near the flower arrangements. Invisible. My stepmother floated around in designer black, introducing my younger half-brother to everyone like he was the crown prince. "This is Ethan," she'd say. Mom adored him. She always said he'd do great things. No one introduced me. I was 26, a public school teacher, making barely enough to cover rent and gas. The daughter who chose passion over profit. The family's soft failure. But here's what nobody in that room understood. My grandmother practically raised me. When my mom died from cancer, I was 13. My father didn't know how to handle grief, or maybe he just didn't want to. 2 weeks after the funeral, he dropped me off at my grandmother's farmhouse in upstate New York and said he needed space. That space lasted almost 3 years. Those years were the only time in my childhood I felt safe. Grandma made pancakes shaped like moons. She read novels out loud in funny voices. She told me my mother had been stubborn and brave and that I had the same fire in me. "You're not small," she'd whisper. "Don't let anyone shrink you." When my father remarried, I moved back into his new house. 5 bedrooms, granite counters, a staircase that echoed when you walked down it. My room was the smallest one, right next to the laundry room. A year later, Ethan was born. And just like that, I faded. My father started talking about legacy, about real ambition, about how men build and women nurture. He never said I was a failure directly. He just said things like, "Teaching is cute, but it's not exactly building an empire, is it?" Every holiday dinner was the same script. He'd ask, "Still teaching?" I'd say yes. He'd smirk. "What's that pay now? 40? 45? He gave my brother that much for summer internships. I told myself it didn't matter, that I loved my students, that I didn't need validation. But here's the truth. When the will was read 2 weeks after grandmother's funeral and I was left $10,000 for reliable transportation, something inside me cracked. 10,000. My father got everything else. The house, the investments, the accounts. He looked at me across that polished conference table and said, "Mother always understood who could handle responsibility." I believed him.
For 5 years, I believed my grandmother had seen my life and decided I wasn't worth betting on. Fast forward to my 30th birthday. That envelope, that letter. My sweet girl, if you're reading this, it means you survived your parents. I had to sit down. Parents, plural. Like she knew exactly what kind of house I'd grown up in after I left hers. She wrote that she never stopped believing in me, that she had prepared something long before she died. Inside the envelope was a small brass key and instructions to a safe deposit box downtown. The next morning, I skipped school for the first time in 3 years and went to the bank. When I gave the clerk my ID and the key, her expression shifted. Please wait. I need the branch manager. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in a private office while a middle-aged man with kind eyes told me something that made my pulse spike. Your grandmother was very clear, he said. No one but you is allowed access. Several people asked about this box over the years. We followed her instructions. Several people. My father. Inside that box was a second will, signed 2 years after the one read in court. In this version, I inherited nearly $3 million, a trust fund, and the farmhouse where she raised me. My father, $50,000, and a line that read, I hope my son learns that family is not an asset to be leveraged. My hands were ice cold. There were bank statements too. Withdrawals. Large ones. Timed exactly with my brother's private university tuition and my father's new real estate venture. Money taken from a trust meant for me. For 5 years, I thought I wasn't wanted. Turns out I'd been robbed. I left that vault a different person than the one who walked in. Not louder, not angrier. Just done. I contacted the attorney my grandmother had named in the letter, an old family friend who had kept copies of everything. Fraud. That was the word she used. We had 2 options, go public, file charges, or confront him privately and demand full restitution. Then I remembered something. My father's 65th birthday party was in 2 weeks. Big country club event. Judges, investors, donors, the whole polished crowd. He loved optics, so I decided to give him a birthday speech. Now here's the thing. I'm not dramatic. I'm not confrontational. I'm the teacher who stays after school helping kids with reading struggles. But sometimes the quiet ones have receipts. The night of the party, I wore navy blue and my grandmother's pearl earrings. My father gave a toast about legacy, about hard work, about building something from nothing. He even mentioned her, said her values shaped him. When he finished, I asked for the mic. You could feel the shift in the room. I thanked him for the party. Then I said, Grandma believed in truth, so I'd like to share something she left me. I held up the certified copy of the 2019 will, explained the discrepancy, explained the withdrawals, explained the fraud. You could hear a champagne glass hit the floor somewhere behind me. My father tried to interrupt, but the attorney stood up from her table and calmly confirmed every word. A retired judge in the audience used the phrase serious criminal exposure. My father's face went from confident to cornered in about 10 seconds. He called me ungrateful, said I was confused, said he was trying to embarrass him. And here's the crazy part. For a split second, I almost shrank. Old habits die hard. But then I remembered my grandmother's voice. Don't let anyone shrink you. So I said calmly, transfer but was taken. Sign over what was mine. Or we file Monday. Silence. 80 witnesses. His empire of image cracking. He settled within 2 weeks. Full transfer, restitution, public resignation as executor. No prison. Some people said I should have gone for blood. But here's the truth. Watching him lose his reputation hurt him more than jail ever could. Business partners pulled out, the country club invitation stopped. My stepmother filed for divorce within the year. And me? I kept teaching. Because the money wasn't about quitting my life. It was about choosing it. I paid off my student loans, renovated the farmhouse, started a scholarship in my grandmother's name for kids who get told they'll never amount to much. My brother reached out months later. He said he didn't know. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just never asked. We're rebuilding slowly, on boundaries, not blind loyalty. As for my father, we don't speak. He sent one message through a lawyer saying I destroyed the family. But here's what you didn't destroy the family if you exposed the lie. The lie did. If you've ever been the quiet kid, the low earner, the one they underestimated, listen to me. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. Love doesn't come with humiliation attached. If it does, that's control. And you do not owe loyalty to someone who profits from your self-doubt. My grandmother left me more than money. She left me proof that someone saw me clearly. And sometimes that's all it takes to stand up. If this story hit you in the chest a little, hit like. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more real stories about finding your backbone when people swear you don't have one. The night of the party didn't end when the guest went home. It started. At 1:17 a.m., my phone rang. Dad. I stared at the screen until it stopped. Then a voicemail notification popped up. His voice wasn't polished anymore. It wasn't the confident businessman tone he used at the podium. It was sharp, panicked. You humiliated me. You think you can threaten me in front of my colleagues? You have no idea what you've just done. Click. That was the first of 7 voicemails. By morning, his lawyer had emailed mine accusing me of defamation and misinterpretation of estate documents. Basically legal smoke to see if I'd back down. Old me would have panicked. New me forwarded everything to my attorney and went to work. I taught third period English like nothing had happened. Because here's the thing about power. It expects emotion. When you don't give it any, it gets unstable. 2 days later, Dad tried a different tactic. Guilt. He showed up at my school parking lot. Yes, my school. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He looked tired. "You're blowing this out of proportion," he said. "It was just temporary borrowing. Families move money around. I would have fixed it." I asked him one question. "Why didn't you tell me?" Silence. Because if he told me, I'd have known I mattered. That's what this was really about. Not money. Control. The next week was legal chess. His team tried to argue the second will wasn't properly disclosed. Mine produced certified copies, notarized timestamps, bank withdrawal records. Then came the turning point. My attorney discovered that when he transferred funds from my trust, he signed documents stating he was acting in the beneficiary's best interest. But the beneficiary was me, and the withdrawals directly funded my brother's tuition and a commercial real estate investment that later
doubled in value. That's not best interest. That's paper trail greed. When his accountant was subpoenaed, the tone changed fast. Within 48 hours, they requested a private settlement meeting. We sat across from each other in a glass conference room. No audience this time, no champagne, just documents. He looked older than he had 2 weeks earlier. "I was protecting the family's future," he said quietly. I replied, "You were protecting the son you preferred." That landed. He didn't deny it. In the end, he agreed to repay the full amount taken from my trust, transfer ownership of the farmhouse immediately, publicly step down as executor of remaining estate holdings, cover all legal fees. No admission of guilt, of course not, but money moves speak louder than apologies. After the settlement, the real fallout began. Word spreads fast in wealthy circles. Board members don't like financial misconduct headlines. Within 3 months, he lost a major development deal. 2 investors withdrew. The country club board requested his resignation. No one announced why, but everyone knew. My stepmother blamed me. She sent a message saying, "You could have handled this privately." I almost laughed. I did handle it privately, until he forced it public. My brother called one night. He sounded shaken. "I didn't know the money was yours," he said. "Dad told me Grandma changed the will because you didn't visit enough." That hurt more than the theft, because I visited every Sunday. He was just never there to see it. We talked for an hour. For the first time, he admitted he always felt like he was competing with a ghost. My mother, my grandmother, the version of me Dad used as an example of what not to become. We're not close, but we're honest now, and that's new. As for Dad, 3 months after the settlement, he left one last voicemail. His voice was different this time. Not angry, not threatening, just small. "I never thought you'd turn out stronger than me." That's it. No apology. But it was the closest thing to truth he's ever given me. I didn't call back, because closure doesn't always come from a conversation. Sometimes it comes from standing still while someone realizes they can't move you anymore. Today, the farmhouse is restored. The kitchen smells like pancakes again. I host scholarship dinners there every summer for students who've been told they're not ambitious enough. And every time I hand one of them a check, I think about what Grandma wrote. Don't let anyone shrink you. Part 2 wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming narrative. He built an empire on image. I built a life on truth. And only one of those survives exposure. If this story taught you anything, let it be this. You are not dramatic for demanding fairness. You are not greedy for protecting what's yours. And you are not disloyal for refusing to be exploited. Sometimes the quiet daughter becomes the final chapter no one saw coming.